Yeah, now we got that first mission done. We should have some files to read and get us some of that juicy, juicy lore. Let's read up, shall we? Factions. First off, the Creole Republic, who we were working for last mission. A periphery nation which sustains itself as a port of call on the Atlantic, has recently seen fit to pursue association status with the Federation, hoping that their protection would stymie the ever-present pirate and privateer threat which exists off its coast. If it vassalizes, the Creole Republic would be the Federation's first Atlantic state. Nations their size make up the majority of world governments. So yeah, one of the things I really love about this game is its setting. Like, at first glance, it does sort of remind of the Ace Combat setting, Stranger, where it's sort of Earth, but at the same time not. Like, there's certainly things that remind you of Earth, but the world, like, structure itself is very different, and also the geography because of Calamity. But, another thing this setting reminds me of, that I'm really happy it reminds me of, is Crimson Skies. Like, just how a lot of, like, what were formerly large nations are now, like, scattered in the smaller nation states. Like, in, Crimson Skies, you used to have stuff, like, where, like, California, or, like, even, like, just the areas around, like, the Great Lakes were their own nations now after the country split up. I'm kind of reminded of that here, where you have, like, sure, the larger stuff like the Federation, but then stuff like what was formerly Louisiana and its surrounding territories are now its own country. God, I miss Crimson Skies. Burlock Privateers, who we were blowing up last mission. The Burlock Privateers were a pay-to-play privateer group. Really, the Crimson Skies remake, or just a new one. There was so much you could do with that setting. Like, you don't even need to really continue the story of the last ones. I like the story of Nathan Zachary and the Fortune Hunters, but you could do so much with that world. Like, how, maybe a bit more of a game with a bit more freedom, where I could become my own Sky Pirate band. Just saying. The Burlock Privateers were a pay-to-play privateer group, those bastards, which made money by extracting taxes out of passing ships at the threat of kidnapping and piracy. Stationed at a now abandoned offshore port and now currently a crater, the Burlock sustained notoriety was to be their downfall. Like many criminal groups facing off against militant mercenaries like Sicario, groups like them are not unfamiliar in this world, if not common along the periphery. The Sicario, hey, that's us. A mid-sized mercenary unit with a skew towards aerial operations, because they're cool like that. Sicario is comprised of 3 combat jet wings with supporting ground forces, electronic warfare, and logistical elements. Compared to most units of its size, turnover is very low, heading towards Sicario's veterancy compared to their peers. Operating away from the influence of political superpowers in the periphery, Sicario is constantly searching for an undefinable big break, cutting a swath through fenced jobs and strategic strikes from cash. It's unknown who or how Sicario was made. However, Kaiser's ownership of Sicario comes after several prior disastrous contracts in years past. So, yeah, presumably, before Kaiser, whoever was boss went kablooey. Mercenaries! We got which is, excuse me, had a little soda beforehand. Mercenaries are a real world thing, don't really need a definition on that, but we need context for what they are in this setting. Guns for hires, fighters without a cause, and private soldiers. I'm pausing at the wrong places all the time. Throughout the world are common, if not on the decline due to the pressure from the current political superpowers. Available to nations in the periphery as a stand-in for their own militaries, or hired for more non-governmental affairs such as territory raiding or bounty hunting, mercenaries range from common soldiers to electronic warfare specialists, all in it for the bottom line. Or maybe they just think it's fun, like me. After Calamity Era, Entry 1. That's not saying Era 1, that's just the first entry in the After Calamity Era. After the long cold and the reestablishment of formal international communications, the surviving nations of the world organized and currently maintain a base 0 year for the continuing development of the human race. In this period, named After Calamity, established its year 0 after determinations that mankind has resumed its developmental path unaffected by the calamity. The average citizen of this world lives in a comfortable, safe life, ranging from metropolitan to rural. typically with little discomfort originating from the natural world. Again, I really like how this, the whole calamity takes the familiar of our world and makes it unfamiliar. It makes it in a whole new setting. Makes it really cool. And more file archives as we get into the game. We'll go more into it. But the gist of the calamity is that, hey, you know the Ring of Fire, the area around Pacific where there's a shitload like volcanoes and tectonic activity? What if that sort of went nuts one day? Yeah. Yeah, the world basically got apocalypsed by a whole shitload of volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. Not a great time, and as you saw, really shifted the geographical face of the planet. Hey, you see this bit right here? This massive fucking island right here? That's Hawaii. Hawaii got way bigger. Like way bigger. Like, damn. The Malinks incident, which we just sort of went through. The Federation Department of Global Energy and Sustainability Office report that the Malinks was lost with all hands following the mishandling of cargo by private contractors. Hey, you told us to mishandle it. And we just attached a detonation area. Admittedly, maybe I did need to scrape the cargo with the bottom of my plane, but I was just following orders. Okay? Cordium. It's just Tiberium. It's Tiberium from Command and Conquer, but still. A crystallized combination of dielectric materials, native metals, and still yet to be understood anomalous compositions churned up in the crucible that is the deep-sea Earth mantle. Cordium is one of the most crucial energy resources in the AC era. See, it's Tiberium. Cordium was properly studied only when humanity returned to its pre-calamity development level. Stories during the immediate post-apocalypse filled with stories of dangerously reactive rocks and formations, single-handedly powering abandoned facilities in proximity that survived the immediate disasters, as if haunted by powers beyond understanding. And we have one more thing, the Justa Island Chain, which is where we fought off those pirates. Situated off the coast of the Creole Republic, this island chain's prospective economic developments throughout the decades have been usurped by pirates recently, and now it's been usurped by being blown the fuck up. Pilot entries. Let's scroll this up a bit. I will say one thing I'm not a fan of in this game, how they give you even when you're using a controller, they give you the fake mouse cursor. Yeah, in fact, I might as well just use my mouse when I'm in the menus. Just let me flick through things with the D-pad, damn it. Here we get a bit more information on the people we're flying with. First of all, Hitman 2, Diplomat. Son of a Cascadian political dynasty, Diplomat has elevated himself from underperforming middle child to well-rounded pilot, after eloping from the Federation Air Academy and striking it out in the zone and periphery. Having survived long enough in Sicario to be Hitman's number 2, his homebrew flight style and generally amiable personality has served him well in the cutthroat world of mercenary piloting. Despite his record, however, it is known that Diplomat doesn't do well when he's in over his head. His call sign is a jab at his somewhat privileged upbringings, which he vehemently denies any association to currently. Not quite a big fan of back home, it seems. Comic. Born in the family of immigrant workers from a lesser-developed North American state, after moving into Cascadia's Pacific Northwest, the woman that would become Hitman 3 aspired to greatness beyond her rural lifestyle. Scoring top marks in the Federation Air Academy, she was fast-tracked to Squadron Commander in Cascadia's National Guard. Unfortunately, she was removed from her command after an operation gone wrong. Disappearing in the periphery, disgraced, she's now in the service of Sicario and Hitman Team. Her call sign is a vestige of her former personality, one that was allegedly a little more funny. Now, though, she's mainly pretty grumpy. Assassin 1, Kaiser. Little is known outright about Kaiser. However, it is known that he used to be part of a military of a now failed nation state, and Sicario pre-existed his own entry into the unit. What is known about Kaiser is that his form of charisma is derived from the very essence of a self-proclaimed war hero to be. Many Sicario often consider his leadership as Sicario as a way of him searching for glory. Despite the fanciful claim, Sicario has operated effectively and cleanly, avoiding the ire of the Federation while taking on jobs away from the world's superpowers. Never one to back down from a show, he entertains. But yeah, Kaiser here, boss of the entirety of Sicario, but also still goes on the front lines himself. Notice that call sign Assassin 1. He does lead his own squadron, though he's really the only member of that squad we ever see. And our AWACS Galaxy. In case you're not familiar with what an AWACS is, it's one of those planes with like the radar dish on top. They're basically our situational awareness. A rarity amongst even smaller national militaries, AWACS Galaxy is the call sign for Sakary's main operator. Outspoken, loud, proud, and a foil to Kaiser's bombast, Galaxy was himself a former radio engineer and radio DJ. However, several bad decisions and a binding contract has attached his fate to Kaiser now. Unfortunately, Kaiser has realized that Galaxy stuck with him as opposed to the other way around, and the operator has found himself Sakary's de facto second-in-command. Existing outside of the usual prior military training that AWACS operators usually come from, he is initially grading for former service pilots, but his straight to the point, if not colorful updates, keep Sakary well ahead of the enemy. And Hitman 1 Waifu Systems Operator President. The other Hitman 1, Monarch's occasional co-pilots, claim the fame is that she is able to keep up with Monarch, responsible for taking shots that Monarch calls while in aircraft that necessitate two pilots. She is, if anything, just the slightest more talkative than Monarch, and is a welcome addition among Hitman 2 and 3. I love the reason that, that they established that Prez is literally the only one physically capable of keeping up with Monarch in a plane. Like, if anyone else were to be in that plane, they would pass out from the G-forces. Good for you, Prez. And Master Goose Squadron. Still a really good squadron name. An independent freelance mercenary squadron, records from public sources denote a respectable combat record, if not plain compared to Sicario, which, makes sense considering they're a squadron compared to an entire small military. SOG Ronin. Special Operations Group Ronin is a subsection of Sicario's ground force, special forces soldiers that act in concert with Sicario's assets. Their arrival with Sicario in the Cascading conflict has provided the Independence Force with a search and rescue unit meant to relieve embattled divisions behind enemy lines. They swear themselves to Kaiser for reasons unelaborated by them, but yeah, Ronin is more or less our main ground force, which makes sense that we only really have one since Sicario is mainly an air force. Hitman team. 1 second. Needing to drink a lot after all this talking. Sicario's Point Squadron, they are, in their current iteration, a 3-man flight. No nonsense, results getting, and able to duke it out with even the most seasoned fighters. Their existence in the mercenary world is considered a fluke. The relative closeness when compared to the rest of their mercenary compatriots in Sicario is also note. Some speculate this is from their shared experience as Sicario's only Cascadians. Further speculate that Hitman is searching for something in their mercenary travels. Hitman declines to comment on any of these claims. So a bit of a mystery to our own squad. And also, our squad is from Cascadia, the people who are currently about to hire us. Good, interesting to know. Yeah, that's more or less all of the world entries for now, I believe. Yep, that looks about right. Now we got that bit of lore dump out of the way. Let's get back to the mission.